Good morning, my name is Alberto Marino. I'm the Senior Diversity Officer with the Washington Metropolitan Area Transit Authority. That's the official name. Sometimes it's WMATA, and the English word is WMATA, is the metro in Washington. My job is focused to attract minority to metro. We need to be in compliance with the Affirmative Action Plan. Affirmative Action Plan is the government regulation in order to have diversity in the workforce. So every time that we post a job, every time we are looking for a specific talent for a position, we need to make sure that the diversity compliance is, we need to use our Google diversity pool. For example, most of the lead program manager for Metro Trabajo, in Spanish is Metro Jobs. Historically, Metro have a low number of Latinos. Back in 2012, I'm with Metro almost 5 years. Back in 2012, the number of Latino in Metro was 3.28. After Metro Trabajo, now it's 5.2%. So growing up. So I will let you know how many engineers are in this room right now. Engineers?
Okay. Oh wow.
That's good. That's okay. Perfect. So let me go to my friend Chris Smith.
But architect.
Okay, no, that's fine. That's fine.
That's pretty good too.
The same area.
Mr. Smith.
Good morning, I'm Chris. Good morning, I'm Chris Smith. I'm Vice President of Sales at the Barber Group. I work in an area of the construction industry that is called surety, or you may know it as bonding. And I serve general contractors, subcontractors, and suppliers in this market. And I have a perspective that I'm going to try and share on what the market looks like in terms of demand for talent, whether you're an engineer, an architect, or a skilled laborer. And I can also share some of my experiences with building small companies up and the way that we look at their management teams and how they deliver their work. So give you a little window into my world, but also talk generally about the demand for labor in this market. So thank you.
Thank you.
And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dennis Desmond, and I am the business manager for Laborers International Union Local Number 11. In case you're not familiar with construction unions in the United States, let me just give you a quick explanation. In the construction industry, in the commercial construction industry, you have the owners of buildings, right? For example, when Northern Virginia Community College builds a building, they bid the project out to general contractors. General contractor wins the job, and then they subcontract the work out to subcontractors. Typically, the building will already have been designed. And those subcontractors, the entities that actually do the work, they need a workforce. So they have two choices of where to get the workers. One, they can hire the workers themselves and manage them, that's a non-union contractor, or they can sign a contract with me to recruit, train, and refer for employment the worker, who then becomes a member of a labor union and is also enrolled in a vocational education program. So I know this conference is focused on skilled immigrants. We tend to be the place where unskilled immigrants who are not going to college come, but are still able to get an education. So, for example, this morning, I have contracts with 260 area commercial contractors, and we have approximately 3,500 laborers who are working on jobs. Some of them are very visible, like the hot lanes on the road. Some you don't see, like tunnels and pipeline projects. But the distinctive fact of the workforce here, that is to say, the individuals who are building, who are working, building these buildings, roads, tunnels, and bridges, is that they are mostly immigrants. They're actually overwhelmingly immigrants in Northern Virginia. So of our membership, the 3,500, about 2,500 are immigrants from mostly Central America, from the nation of El Salvador, Spanish-speaking immigrants, and they come, most of them don't have a lot of education. There are some even that are illiterate in their native language, Spanish. So how do we integrate them into the American economy? How do we give them a road forward, a path to success and for themselves and their family? That's our mission, to help them with that. And we do that by partnering with contractors for work, but more importantly, enrolling the workers in an extensive vocational training education program that goes on for years. And at the end of the process, they become something called a journeyman worker, which is a word that goes all the way back to the medieval times when you had guys with tools that would wander around from job to job, and they called them journeymen. And they had with them an assistant who they called an apprentice. But we still use that system in construction. If you are a new worker, if you don't know anything, you are called an apprentice. And you work with a more skilled person, and both the apprentice and the journeyman go to school. So, anyway.
Thank you, Mr. Desmond. With that note, you've heard that there are opportunities for skilled workers and also an apprentice, like you heard. You can come in fresh and green, and a company might be willing to train you on the job and offer you classes at night and place you, so you might be working and earning wages. I want to mention 3 things that are very important for you to know. In Fairfax County SkillSource agencies, and we have 5 different offices throughout Northern Virginia, Prince William, Loudoun, and Fairfax. We have what's called on-the-job training program. This program offers you a chance to obtain employment and retain employment, meaning that you will be placed in a job, earning a wage, and learning on the job for 3 months. Whereas the employers get a wage subsidy. And that could equate up to $5,000 during that first 3 months period. There's lots of policies and regulations around that. It takes time, but this opportunity is available to every one of you here. Another program is called Federal Bonding Program. Federal Bonding Program operates much like a surety. But the Department of Labor and the McLaughlin Company had made a partnership back in the late 50s to offer bonds to offset the cost of hiring a new employee, and also to offset the cost of, in case of an embezzlement or anything that would happen at work. So the federal bonding is fully funded program with Fairfax County that offers bond to employers in case of an embezzlement or anything or theft. Okay. The third program that you should be aware of it as a job seeker, if you belong to any of the programs of Fairfax County, you are part of what's called Work Opportunity Tax Credit. Okay. So that means if you belong to any welfare program, or if you're a low-income family, and some of the skilled workers' family are rather large, 5 or more kids, and they belong to a program called the tax credit. Every employer that you approach for employment, you should share with them that they should take advantage of the tax credit.
Yeah, okay, so in the commercial construction industry, there isn't a whole lot of trades you can do. So I represent the laborers who are the entry-level trade. But you also have carpenters, you have operators, you have bricklayers, you have cement masons, and then you have the trades which require a greater degree of licensure, which is plumbing, electrical, and sheet metal. The entry-level trades, you don't need a whole lot of skills to get in. When you get into the area of what's called mechanical, electrical, and plumbing, you need to have usually a year or so of college algebra, and you need to be able to pass a written examination in English. For example, to be a certified electrician, you need to be able to pass a written. So,
Thank you.
that's
Anyone else?
Let me piggyback again, talking about apprentice program. Metro is buses and trains, right? We have 2 apprentice programs. The first one is the elevator and escalator technician. It's a 4 years program. So it's basically train that mechanic or that person the person that applies for that position, they have to pass a test. The name of the test is a Bennett test. It's a lot of hydraulic thing. I was very successful with people with background in engineering. For example, I have a lady, she's from Venezuela, she has a mechanical degree, so she passed the test, she went through the whole process. So now she have a really stable job, good pay job. That job started 92,000.
Wow.
Right? It's really hard to find elevator and escalator technician in this area because they belong to local payment. So now I'm looking people in Puerto Rico because there's no union. The union is not really hard to find in Puerto Rico. So people have the same certification that would require this CET, Certified Elevator Technician. That's one of the apprenticeship programs. The second one is TSP, Straight Skills Program for automobile. It's automobile technician, but it's just focused on buses. So it's almost 4 years. The apprentice, the apprentice will be at the end will be ASE certified. That is American Standard for Excellence. But it's to touch the engine. So it's that particular two apprentice program that we have. Our entry level position is the bus driver, of course. And then the other one is a special police officer, the security guard. I mentioned the two levels, the two entry level position up to, of course, engineer, mechanical engineer, civil engineer.
Wonderful. Chris, you want?
We talked about the engineers. Who are the other people in the room? What are the other skills that are represented here? Just so I can speak it ahead of.
Aircraft.
Aircraft? Oh, okay.
The aircraft
Supply and
mechanical?
logistic company.
Okay, very good.
Supply company. Logistic.
Geologist and hydrogeologist.
Wow. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Painter.
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 Oh,
Beautiful.
I know.
Yeah. My take on the market, and this is listening to the construction executives, this DC Metropolitan is red hot on construction spending, and it's not showing any signs of slowing in the next at least 2 years. And the demand for labor has outstripped the availability, according to the construction executives. So whether you're painting, whether you are a project manager, whether you have some engineering or architectural background, positioning yourself in this market is, it's not difficult as long as you're meeting the requirements of the hiring organization. The other thing I want to say is there are a lot of temporary, they might be called staffing, they might be called augmentation firms, but there's a lot of activity around right now, temp to permanent hiring. So if you're not networking with these staffing organizations that focus on skilled labor, you're missing out on an opportunity there to extend your reach into the market. But things like drywall, painting, concrete labor, any kind of skilled finish work. I mean, the demand is it's unbelievable. It's a great time to be in this market.
Can I tack onto that?
Absolutely.
There's two reasons why that's happening. One is, this is the capital of the United States. So you have a big federal government bureaucracy. They always need construction. Even if the rest of the country is falling apart, you still want to maintain the central administrative bureaucracy. The other thing has to do with the energy, changing energy situation in the United States with the discovery of a lot of natural gas in Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia, called the Marcellus Shale, has turned the United States from a gas importing nation to a gas exporting nation. So for example, I have 200 workers that are working in the Chesapeake Bay building what is called a liquefied natural gas terminal. It's owned by Dominion Energy. It's a $6 billion project. What they do is they take raw gas, you freeze it to 300 degrees below zero, and it turns into a liquid. And then they put it into ships, and they're sending it to the clients are the governments of India and Japan.
Wonderful.
So energy is another sector for those of you who, from engineering and.
Thank you, Dennis. I want to add to that. My conversation with Mr. Chris Smith is that this area faces a huge challenge. We are 5,000 employee shortage just in this area alone. This is according to the statistics with Virginia Employment Commission, and George Mason also did a study that shows that we are very short in people like you. The key is, as you heard, is to know or meet with people to help you to get yourself positioned in the right position to meet the need of these jobs and access the right employers. This is today, it is your market. I mean, employers are really struggling to find somebody. Today, it is a job seeker market. So you have an advantage, if I may say. So take advantage of that. Fix your resume, learn some soft skills, learn how to interview, present yourself properly. Pick up some on the dynamic words that you need during interview. And if you need help, again, go back to SkillSource. And the apprentice programs that are in North Virginia are incredible. You heard about WMATA. I mean, we're talking about a variety of apprentice programs. If you are newly in this country and you need to have a foot in the door, know where to go to get started. Thank you. And with that, I'm going to lead into the following question. Question number 2 is for the panelists, is what type of certificates and mindset do you need to access employers that are struggling to find me as a job seeker?
Specifically with WMATA Metro, the civil engineering or the mechanical engineering will require PE. The PE. So everybody's familiar with the PE. Okay, that's the only requirement. In the United States, when I'm from Venezuela, I came as a political refugee. I applied for political asylum. So I went through the whole process when you have my bachelor degree is international studies. So I send those to a company. They do the translation and everything. That is fine for me because that profession is recognized in the U.S. as an international study. But physicians, engineers, lawyers, that's a different thing, especially in the healthcare area. So for engineers, it's required a PE certification. That's the professional engineering. So it's a test that you guys need to take in order to be full in compliance with the regulation. That is very important for Metro. The second one is now it's on demand. You guys saw the presentation, Alex Cooley from North Virginia Community College. PMP. PMP is mandatory now. You will be, if you have a PMP, and actually a skill, so they provide PMP training for those people qualified. It's more competitive, it's including people internally in Metro. Now in Metro, everybody have a PMP training because now you will be competing with externals. Absolutely. I saw people in Metro with 20 years, no PMP. Hey, I have a guy from Afghanistan, from India, with PMP, who is more, eligible with, to be hired, of course, is that particular. So several licenses in Metro, journeyman for plumber, we require journeyman. HVAC, we require journeyman because we need to be in compliance with the state. It's more regulation as an industry. So it's several credentials that we require. So maybe one-on-one with me, I want to explain with more details. Something that is hot is the CDL. CDL, well, Mouly knows. Yeah. CDL is a $5,000, no more than $5,000 license. Training. And it's on demand. I'm always looking for a CDL driver.
I know we have folks from all over the world. Afghanistan. I'm sorry if I missed some of the countries. Afghanistan, Pakistan, and other countries, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and others. And they come with such a high education, and they still struggle in this area. Honestly, empower yourself with the right interview skills, knowing how to explain your credentials, knowing how to present yourself. Don't just show up for an interview. Prepare for it, please. And if you need someone, the SkillSource Centers are available to you Monday through Friday. I want to tag along on one particular point that Mr. Marino mentioned is the CDL. We have CDL training offered every day throughout SkillSource. If you meet the income guidelines, income level within the Workforce Investment Innovation Opportunity Act, we can support you. The class is actually $3,000 through many training providers that we have. So Thank you. Anyone want to tag along on certificates, please?
I'll add 2 points to that, not on certificates, but on selling your credentials.
Yes.
Because when the management teams are presented to me, I have to then present those credentials to a surety company or an insurance company or another creditor. So it's incredibly important that you document all the relevant experience that you're bringing to the table, project experience, management experience. Take the time to go into a lot of detail, because sometimes someone like me will reach into that information and pull it out and make it relevant. And I know employers will do this, but selling the full breadth of your past performance in this market is a necessity. So if you haven't taken the time to do that, electronically or on paper, it really matters. So, and the soft skills of selling yourself, the best thing that you can do in that regard is do the role playing with someone in these offices.
Yeah.
Pick a target organization, have them go through that organization with you. If you're lucky, have them call the hiring manager and pitch the position and get those talking points. But practicing selling yourself with someone that is not familiar with you is very important. And it's a very easy thing to do. Very few people do it. So that's what I would offer.
Yeah. Before I worked for the laborers union, I worked for the P.J. Dick Trumbull Corporation, which is a billion-dollar construction company. Built the Wilson Bridge, for example, just as an example. And I will say this, in my office, I was the only person, every single person in my office was a professional engineer, civil engineers typically. And something I noticed about the leadership of companies that we dealt with, the CEOs, for example, they always also have a business degree. You often see that engineering plus business.
Yes.
But I think the main thing about getting into these companies is what these guys are saying about being familiar with the companies. It's often very personal. You know, these companies are owned by families, they're owned by individuals. You have to figure out a way to get before them where they're interested in you as an individual. And maybe even you know, if you are an immigrant, there might be something in your background that is useful to the company. Consider that a lot of American companies are international companies. Maybe you speak a language that they could help them, you know, in a job overseas, Spanish in particular. I mean, for example, Fluor Corporation, F-L-U-O-R, if you've ever heard of them, they're the ones building the hot lanes in Virginia. They do a lot of work in South America. We've had guys from our union be recruited to be safety inspectors in Chile and Argentina, simply on the basis that they're fluent in English and Spanish.
You know, the partners, they have a now project in Dubai, in Middle East, so if you speak Arabic, you will be the person assigned to that particular project, yeah? Yes, languages.
When you're doing your due diligence on these companies, language is a huge asset. And in this market, there seems to be a gap between labor and management in that particular area that we never quite get to proficiency. So language, technical language, management, the ability to work and communicate through on management objectives, huge asset in this market, because there continues to be a gap between the leaders and the laborers, and if you can find a way to fill that gap and extend your resumes and your professional expertise, that is a good place to be.
Let me tell a little story, because this is an immigrant to immigrant story. My first job as a recruiter or talent acquisition HR area was with the General Electric in the area where wind power, turbines and everything. That position, I'm starting as a communication specialist working on the resumes, no recruiting. But they noticed that I speak Spanish, I'm native Spanish, of course. I'm proficient with Portuguese. I'm French, so they noticed that I'm gonna start dealing with people, especially in Brazil and South America. So I moved from communication specialist to recruiter. I was the younger recruiter. The older recruiter was senior people with 25 years on doing that. So for my language skills, I think I went through, I don't know how many steps.
Sure.
And I become talent acquisition, especially on global things, for that languages.
Speaking about construction workers, you find a lot of, maybe not a lot of guys, but there's opportunity there to move from having very little skill to being a superintendent, being a foreman, and sometimes a safety director or something like that. We also have workers who go on to form their own companies. And you see that with a certain number of, particularly of Latinos, I've noticed, that they'll work in the field for a while, and then they'll form a painting company, or they'll form a drywall company. And one thing is good to know is that the United States has a system of trying to build up minority, what we call minority companies, right? And so, for example, the federal government or the state government, they always have a set aside. They always have a certain percentage of the work that they would like to give to a minority company. So if you find a minority person who's created their own company and they know the industry, they're not just looking to be like a pass-through, but they can actually do the work. It's a very valuable thing. It's a valuable asset.
Wonderful.
I'm in the business of helping business owners build scale and grow profits and grow headcounts and grow assets. So the success story for me is exactly what you just described. Taking someone from your background who decides to form a company and start to build that capacity. And fortunately in this country, it's not difficult to form a company. The difficulty comes in scaling. So on the bonding side of things and building credit capacity, that is where the real work gets done, and that's how we accelerate growth. So the success story for me is if you start your company, you've got to surround yourself with advisors who are growth oriented and who understand construction from the standpoint of capacity building. And from my perspective, you're all professionals, but without bonding credit and without banking credit, you're not going to grow very quickly. So that would be, from a success story, an early thing to start to develop those partnerships and get the right people on your team. But I like growing companies. That's my success story.
Let me complete the loop, because also Metro, we offer jobs, of course, but also we offer opportunity for diversity business. That's the business that is owned by minority. This year we organized the first procurement fair, so a lot of people have a small company, they show up, the Metro offer a registration to be, a certification to be a diversity business company, able to do business with Metro. As soon as you may start doing business with Metro, you also are legally with DC government as well. It's a double compensation on that, you know. And it's really important, especially for entrepreneurs, to start doing business with Metro. We have $3 million, so $6 billion for a small business right now. Because remember, with the DBE, the Diversity Business Enterprise, any bid below 150,000 is just to, they're giving according with the accreditation. Now let me talk about the success stories. The best I remember my first hire. Like that guy is from Bolivia. I remember it was my first hire. I hired him as a general labor. General labor, ladies, is a very entry-level position. At that time, $13 per hour, in 14. He's just working on the rails, working with the crew. Okay, that's really smart, really smart. So, October 2014, general labor. Now, he is a truck worker. He's making $35 per hour.
Oh,
So
wow.
he passed all those training. That period of step by step, sometimes people take like a 10 years, 8 years. He did in less than 4 years.
There is a struggle when you first come in. Please be empowered that you have so much talent that you brought with you. Don't be shy. Don't be shy. I think you need to learn English, job English, which is quite different. And you need to get acclimated to a culture, which is new for you, and it's not difficult because the American culture is so open-minded, very easy to get acclimated to. And I think that you need to take your original experience and see how you can run it parallel to another career. For example, we have mechanical engineers coming from all over the world, and they struggle because they don't know where to go. You know, they might end up getting a $12 an hour job, which does not cover bills at the end of the month, and then you end up being in the same bracket as poverty families. So, but you need to meet with somebody with a professional career development that can help you and guide you in a very intelligent path so you can build a career. Yes, it's okay when you first come in. It's okay to get a $10, $12 an hour job to put food on the table. But please, by all means, you need to connect with the right people that can shuffle up your skills and tell you where to go. For a mechanical engineer, I know personally a person from Eritrea. His name is Stefano, that I helped about 12 years ago. He was a mechanic, and his father had 3 shops until they went to ruin because of whatever political issues the country had. He left his country and came here and brought his family immediately from doing well for himself and his family to poverty level in the United States. So, but what he did when we met him, we said, look, you are a mechanic, you are a mechanical engineer, you come from a mechanical background family. So what we did is we helped them get a job as a commercial driver for a small company, and he took that to the next level on his own. On his spare time on the weekend, guess what he did? He maintained those trucks because of his mechanical background. If you can guess what Stefano is doing today, you'll be shocked. His company is about $750,000 company. And it started from his CDL and fixing up a towing company trucks that nobody wants to take time to fix. Soon he started a company on his own. Stefano does not answer the phone because he got too many phone calls coming in his way. So again, meet with someone, and we have some folks that are here helping us set up this conference today. Talk to them, make an appointment, see what they can do to help you. You are very valuable to this culture, and I know you heard that several times today. Your background, your discipline, which costs a lot of money. You come from a culture that offers a lot of discipline. It runs in your blood. Don't let it go to waste. You have a lot to offer. You can grow, especially the ones of you that are highly educated. With that, I'll go to the next question. Any promising practices or successful practices that you can share with the audience today so they can walk out here today and get a good jumping start? And I know we covered some of it already, but we want to put it in perspective for you.
From my perspective, you've got to practice presenting yourself to people, and you've got to become very fluid in that process with your communication, with highlighting your skill set, and you will only gain that if you practice and you take feedback. So if that is uncomfortable for you, if it would be uncomfortable for you to come up to the front of this room and present your credentials to me and everyone else here, work towards that, because that is necessary. You're in a prime market. You're probably only a couple conversations away from having that opportunity because of all the help that you have access to. So if you can't do that and do it clean and do it in a way that is impactful, you need to work on that, because that alone could open up a door. And I've seen it too many times to discount it, so please work on that.
I think networking. Most of the industries that we're talking about have industry associations. For example, in the commercial contractors, there's 2 or 3 organizations, one of which I'm very familiar with, called the Associated General Contractors. They have regular meetings, they're open to the public, they bring together large numbers of the leaders, let's say, of general contractors. You can go to these meetings, you can introduce yourself, hi, my name is, looking for employment. You never know. So let's say we'll give you a call. So it's, I think what Chris is saying about being out there, being personable and introducing yourselves is a good.
I want to use my hat as a former career counselor. Check your resume. Okay, if you're an engineer, you need to go. The next step is going to the B. Okay, make sure. Okay, that's my create a short-term goal. 5 years, less than 5 years. Okay, what is my next step? Architect. Architect now is required a lot of. In the U.S., is more. In our countries, is more focused on the project and everything. The graphic, the design, a lot of digital component of the architect is more in the U.S. So check your peers, check your people went with you to college. LinkedIn is amazing for that. To start focus your career. Any, for example, aircraft. I need to talk to you because I'm looking for electronic. So check your credentials. If you're ready to submit your credential to all those companies, it's fine, because now you can present, make a copy and send your prospective employer, okay, I'm a mechanical civil engineer in my country, so sometimes it's not necessary to have a PE at the moment, that is very helpful in order to move forward with the position. Make sure that your position, how your position is, the similarity with your position in your country. So make sure if you work for a multinational, make sure that it's talking the same language and your experience. That your experience has been updated in the U.S. We live on a global thing, so make sure that you're talking in the same terminology the U.S. is talking at the same time. You just check your resume first and your credential. Okay, I'm ready to do this, or I need additional training in order to move forward. Okay, that's a brief.
I want to say to the panel, did you know that when you're recruiting, if you have a position that's available, you can recruit through the SkillSource Center at no charge, offering you the facility to recruit from. Did you know that you can save half of the salary for the first 3 months by engaging with Fairfax County? Did you know that you can receive incumbent worker training through the SkillSource Center if you have existing employees that need special training certificates? Did you know you can access taxes? Did you know that we train our clients in certain areas? Did you know that there is a tax credit? I just want to leave you with that. I can be your point of contact, and please make sure that we share this with all your network. These are existing solid programs. These are existing solid programs that are available to all Maryland, Washington, and Virginia businesses and employers. And thank you today, and we'll engage with the first question from the audience. Yes, we have 5 different offices you can access. Can you raise your hand for the person that asked? Okay. What area do you live at?
I want to tell you, I am a civil engineer, and I applied for them many times, but no response. They
You
didn't
apply
respond
with
to me. Apply for jobs.
jobs, okay.
Yes, for engineer, for what else? Many positions opening, and applied to them, and not. Now, if I can go to them and meet to them and tell them about my resume and what I have experienced and what I worked, and how to start the training to work from any step. Yes.
Thank you. Thanks for that question. I think that's very important. A lot of us, a lot of foreign-born or skilled worker face the same challenge. You know, they come with these certificates and degrees, and they struggle sometimes for years. I think Yodi and Astor would relate to this with no problems. We have folks that are sitting in our caseloads because they lack that presentation. They lack someone to guide them and help them in the right direction. Alberto, do you want to tackle that?
Yeah, because
Yes, sir.
I'm an immigrant. I have to face the same thing. So
Same thing, yes.
something when I talk with a prospective employee is, okay, let's check the minimum qualification for that position. And Metro is always a minimum qualification. If you apply for a job, you say, okay, inspector or something, okay, go to the minimum qualification. How many years require the certification? If you at least at the 90% of that particular minimum qualification, you have the right to, you will receive a phone call or an email, or maybe I will contact that person directly, because I'm connecting all those positions with the different recruiters, okay? I'm recruiter, but I'm not recruiter at the same time, so I'm just working with the recruiters to provide the talent. I provide a pool of talent to that particular, so focus on minimum qualification for position. That's a very
Very
good
important.
tip, yes.
Absolutely. Thank you, Alberto. For a civil engineer, you need to look at what jobs are very close to that. And I've seen so many civil engineers that came to this country, to the United States, that worked as a surveyor, that worked as, they take these jobs not to work there for 10, 20 years, to gain a foot in the door. So if your resume, if the top job on your resume says you worked for such and such company in Bangladesh, that's just an example, okay? And the end date is last June 2017. You know what? That employer might shy away. And not because you're not a good employee, just because some employers shy away looking at you just came. But however, with your experience and your certificate and your credentials, you can access entry-level jobs. And I'll be more than happy to sit with every one of you if you're seeking to find what jobs can be related to what you've done. That's what we do every day. Alberto knows that very well. We see people day in, day out. That's all we do in the center. So make an appointment, come into the center. Someone will be glad to guide you in the right.
What comes to mind to me is geotechnical firms.
Yes.
The firms that, for example, when there's a system of tunnels that's being built under Washington DC right now, they're separating the water system from the storage system in order to cut down on the pollution in the Anacostia and Potomac rivers. Before they do that, they have to do a lot of soil borings, and
Yes, sir.
figure out where to build the tunnel. And I know those firms, geotechnical firms, Froling and Robertson, ECS, these are companies that I see when I go to these jobs. They're all over the place, and I do think that they're expanding their work.
So
Thank
the
you.
job
Makes
title
sense.
would
Anybody
be,
else?
when you're searching, is geotechnical? What is it?
They're called geotechnical firms.
Firms,
In the
okay.
construction industry.
And also maybe an internship will try to look on the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers.
Oh my God.
Corps of
That-
Engineers.
By the
okay.
way, that is the single best place you could get a job.
Yes.
It's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, because they also are the owner of all the government construction that you see, and they are a source of, they generate a lot of, positions.
You
Do
know
you
what
have to
happened?
be a citizen though for those jobs?
Some of the
I'm-
jobs, yes.
So,
Yeah.
but you know what happened right now in the agent, we have a lot of retirees, so they need to fill out those jobs, because we have
Okay.
the workforce is moving out.
Right,
Actually, there's three major federal agencies that do construction. It's the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, NAVFAC, N-A-V-F-A-C, which stands for Naval Facilities, and then there's also the GSA, which stands for General Services Administration.
Right.
Those are, they employ a lot of engineers and architects
That's
and
good
things like that.
information.
In addition to that, not to
You
dwell
got
on this,
everything?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
all counties in the area, all counties park authorities have those jobs. Just keep in mind. And the second thing, all local government environmental agencies have those jobs. So again, if you feel you're lost, we will give you a number and a contact person to contact so we can get you through.
We have
Same thing there.
Pennsylvania, we have Pennsylvania, you're right, Pennsylvania, Rio Tinto, that's the name of the company, Rio Tinto. Canada, a lot of jobs in that area. What else? South Dakota, North Dakota?
Yeah, anything where they're doing gas exploration, oil and gas industry.
So my profession is not gas, but it's solid, useful underground minerals. But gas is something different.
Okay. I'm not that familiar with minerals. Yeah.
But remember, mining companies in the US have a business, for example, in Chile, Peru,
Yeah.
Canada, South Africa. So you will be hired here, but maybe you will be assigned also overseas.
And here is another strategy for you. Most local government agencies have now, what do you call it, internships opportunities. Take advantage of those. Go put yourself at, set yourself up with what do you call it, profile in their website as an intern or as a volunteer. And we did the same thing. This lady was working in a lab for water testing. That's all she did in Afghanistan. And she has a master's degree, and she struggled for a year and a half. She went to Fairfax County and volunteered for 3 months. Well, soon enough, the director realized that they have a gold mine in their hand, and they started training this person. Every 2-3 months, she's going to training, and she's got a really decent career started for herself.
LinkedIn. Check your
Yes.
people that you know, your area. LinkedIn is that one because the groups and also jobs related with it.
My advice to you is you walk into that interview, if you get one, with a very positive mind, because the HR directors and supervisors and managers, they're very smart. They can read your body language, they can read the way you present, whether or not you're really in this. Honestly,
Right.
you walk into a job thinking that you got it 95%. And honestly, it does show the motivation, and avoid your body language. Do not talk with your hands. A lot of people go like this and like that. You don't need that. Because it really, some things that might be nice. Something might be nice in other countries, and some other things might be offending to the audience. So my advice again: walking with a very positive mind, thinking that you got the job. The question about being overqualified, honestly, I've been in this business for at least 14 years. Again, with the county for many years, but in the employment world for about 14 years. Tone down your resume and seek a professional to help you do that. If you're telling me you're a doctor, okay, or a surgeon, and you come and apply for a nurse assistant, I am not going to hire you. And it's as simple as that, because you need to seek a professional that can help you tone down your resume professionally, and then present it. Does that make sense, guys?
Yeah.
I mean, if you just send one blanket resume to all the jobs, it's not going to work. So again, in the skill source centers and other employment centers, we'll be more than happy to help you do that.
The power of relationships in this market is very real. And I might suggest to you, first of all, I love that you stood up, you presented your story, you're very animated, you made people laugh in the room. So you're obviously a good communicator.
Yeah.
So my challenge to you would be start to lean on relationships more than on the certifications, and not to discount the value of them, because you obviously saw value, you completed them. But you need to lean on your relationships and use all this training that you've built up to portray yourself and sell yourself. So relationships. But in this market, I mean, relationships really matter. And there is an opportunity mindset in this market. There's a tremendous amount of networking. There are a tremendous amount of people who are open to new relationships. It's not difficult if you have the confidence to have a conversation and ask for things. I think a lot of times whether it's jobs or even in business, we forget to ask for the thing that we want. So don't overcomplicate it sometimes. Just ask. I need help. I need help with this. Do you know this person? I need help with this mining. This, just put it out there. You'd be surprised. LinkedIn is great, but just having a conversation. I mean, it's a very small community here of people when you start to ask for help. So don't be shy about saying, I need this thing. And don't say anything else. Don't make it complicated, and that would be my advice.
Thank you.
Professional organization is critical. Professional engineers, any professional organization that is maybe I'm an example. Prospanica is for Latino professional. Nashimba is a former Nashimba, National Society of Hispanic MBA. I belong to the organization for 10 years. Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers. So you need to find maybe is some Afghanistan, or maybe it's related with Middle East Association. Try to find your peers in a professional organization that is critical.
I think the statistic is that Washington DC might have the highest level of education in the workforce of anywhere in the United States. So we're saying there's a lot of opportunity, but there is also a lot of competition. Some of you may have also done informational interviews where you're not looking for a job. You know someone maybe from your country, whatever, someone who you want to be, and you go with them not to apply for a job, but to ask them how they got a job. And they can say, well, you need to talk to this person, or you need to, I've seen people do that as well.
Thank you.
How going to the academy, start teaching, especially people with PhD make more money than any. So that is another Yes, it's a catch-22. So you the survival job, the pay bills job, and your goals will be the real job. Is it working? Find the right company that you're looking for. Try to target a specific goal in the area. You know, I think it's more. Yeah, but are you current student with George Mason? So let me tell you, George Mason is my partner. They have an excellent networking program, especially in technology. George Mason is the hub for technology.
We mentioned earlier that a person like you with a higher credential, seek internship, seek opportunities to volunteer for organizations in your field or industry, and connect with the folks that are close to your industry. That's really my advice, and I find it very successful for our clients. So you're gonna sit and draw a list of 10 companies in your field and figure out a way to volunteer. All county governments have volunteering sites right now, including Fairfax County. So again, there's always a way to go through the door. Mr. Tashoma has a lot of experience running a business, but he's never actually got down to the nitty-gritty type of work, meaning plumbing, ditches, and other things. I'll leave it up to you guys how you want, and I'll give it a shot at the end.
Well, I mean,
It's a very good question.
in the practical business, let's say of digging ditches, for example, actually what you really need is a competent manager below you. Someone who has experience digging ditches, someone who knows how to set up a job, somebody who knows the equipment and material and manpower that's needed. I mean, hire the right people, I would think. Even if you are not an expert in it, you know what I mean? Find someone who's worked in the type of work that you want to get into. That seems to be what a lot of companies do.
I'm gonna just say this, and it sounds pretty simple, but the idea of humbling yourself, the idea of doing something that you've never done, the only thing that I've heard today that is maybe acceptable to you is that you take something in the interim. You take something for a very short period of time, always working your way back. That's a difficult thing, I can tell, based on your experience and your knowledge. But it is something practical here that you may have to embrace in a short period of time. And that's up to you, not the market. Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Self-checking your skills, what are you looking for, what is your, is goal, so what is your motivation, passion? That's the more important thing.
Yeah.
That's,
My shot at this is, why have you thought about starting your own business in the United States?
In fact, I'm willing to participate in it in any types of work. But I might not be capable like just laying pipes, mixing concrete and so on, because I have never had this experience before.
Yeah. Again, we have a business center that can guide you in the right direction. If you start your own business with your running a business expertise, you could really jumpstart. And you could get started and earn so many projects. Fairfax County, local government, federal government offer contracts to minorities. So again, if you look at it from a different angle, it might be very beneficial to you. It sounds like a rocket science. Okay, I'm going to start my own business. I don't know anybody. I don't know how to market. But we have a business center that can support you, show you how to get started, help you earn confidence. Because if you did it in your country, you can do it here. You just have to believe me. If you did it in your country, you can do it here. Because there's law, there's some degree. There's regulations to follow. Everybody can compete. You are a minority, so you might get a priority. So think about it that way.
And it's a very healthy market.
Yes.
It's a very healthy market.
Oh, I like that,
The
Mouly.
DJ,
I do like that.
one
Straightforward. Straightforward. I've seen friends of mine, and I have lots of friends from Ethiopia, Eritrea, and other countries that started with a very simple idea, thinking it's not going to work. Today, they're...
If you help me in the business, I'm sure you can also help me how to transfer my resources to the United States
I'll be more
from my
than happy
homeland,
to.
right?
I want to look back 10 years from now and say Mr. Tashoma is one of the people I helped start a business. Because that's how I think.
I would like to help you too.
Oh, there you go. There you go. And with that, I want to give a big applause from the audience and say thank you to the panelists.